your nights. Hope you're living your best days. Happy, 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 happy present day. Let me just, let me just say it that way. So, welcome to Swaggerslifestyle. This is Gbogbo Swagger. It's so nice, coming every Saturday or almost every Saturday to have conversation with you. So today is actually going to be a very deep conversation because, like I was telling someone earlier, that we're actually going to open some old wounds on the show today, and definitely heal from it. So I would just go straight into the conversation because today we're talking about African parents and emotional damage. And I'm sure that a lot of people have seen like different types of memes when it comes to African parents. And we are here. We are just going to have this conversation. We're just going to have a good time. No pointing fingers, but if some fingers has to be pointed, don't point them. But I'll just allow everybody to please introduce themselves, and I would say men first because I have been warned before now.
Yeah, men life matters. Hi guys, my name is Babatunde Babs. It's nice to meet you all. I hope we have a nice celebration today. Thank you for having me
Thank,
here.
thank you, Bobs. Next, okay. So can we have Lamide, please?
Hi, my name is Durja Yolamide, and I'm happy to be here. Let's talk about our parents, shall we?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Hey, hi.
So,
My name is Ezeka, and yeah, I'm ready to have this conversation. I think it's been a long time coming for most of us, but yeah, let's see what we get out of it.
okay. So Philippine is actually South African. So in case she did not mention, let me mention on her behalf. So we have
Yes.
two Nigerians, and we have a South African, and we have
Hi, she Philippine. She's from South Africa.
two Nigerians, one partly British, and then another South African. So so let's just go to the conversation. Now, what are your thoughts on African style of parenting? Okay,
May I
so
chip
okay,
in?
so whoever goes first is fine. But I just wanted to say, if you don't want to go first, let's take it maybe the way we introduced ourselves. But whoever wants to
Oh,
jump
okay.
in, the question is fine. So Philip,
Okay. When it comes to how we are by African parents, or the style of parenting, I actually see a lot of faults and flaws in it. Especially as a new parent myself now, there's certain things that my parents did that I do not want to do. I don't want to raise my child or my children in the same manner. Because now with social media and everything, we've been learning about things like gentle parenting, all that. And I've actually just realized that white people have been doing gentle parenting for like generations and generations. They never believed in spanking, for instance, and all that. And I know that spanking is biblical for some, but I think African parents take it to the extreme. I don't know how to explain it. They just, some things don't require you to hit a child. You can just sit them down, say, hey, what you're doing is not right, you know, rather do it this way. But I think it just comes with learning. But yeah, I see a lot of flaws in the African style of parenting, and it's just a lot, it's a lot to unpack, a lot to dissect. But I think they're also coming from a place of this is what we know, because our forefathers and their parents and what went through a lot in terms of colonization, slave trade, all those things. So I think what they were going through, the anxieties and everything, is like they come home and instead of being peaceful or all that, they just take it on their kids. Our parents just learn through the way, like, okay, this is how to parent, but it's actually not the right parent for that.
thank you for sharing. Wow, that's deep. Okay, next person.
Okay, for me, I think African parenting is a bittersweet experience, right? So, I don't entirely think it is bad, apart from when they go to the extreme with, like she said, with the spankings and stuff. So, I really just think that African parenting to some extent, has shaped us all into what we are. So it's not entirely bad, in my own
Okay,
opinion.
over to you. I think probably maybe your mom is watching, trying to say all the good things, but
Even I am worried that my mom is watching this and I have to say anything I have to say. I'm just thinking, this is not how I thought this boy. All right, okay, so African parenting, it's not all bad. I am I think I'm a hybrid of the modern day parenting and also a traditional parenting style. That is not everything that we had that is entirely bad. We know kids can be manipulated. We also know kids can be they can take the piss. Sorry to use that word. They can also test the boundaries and test the lines. So yeah, as much as not everything they did was bad, I remember what Philippines said earlier about the things they had to deal with. They had to deal with colonization. They had to deal with oppression. Had to deal with a lot of struggles. They had to deal with poverty. We should never forget that. So there's a lot of frustration. These guys don't have anyone to unburden to. They just come home and take out the frustration either on the women, which is another conversation entirely. Gender-based violence, and then obviously the low-hanging fruit are the kids. So if you can't beat your wife all the time, probably take the cane to your kids and then beat the crap out of them. So yeah, I don't subscribe to all of that, but there are times that kids deserve a beating. I was a difficult child growing up. I promise you, there were things that I didn't like back then, but later on in life, I thought, you know what, I deserve that. All right, so I think as we go forward in this, we're going to speak a bit more about that. Well, yeah, it's not all bad. African parents not all bad. Yeah, thank you.
okay. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. So for me, I think it's
Mm.
50-50. There's the good, side to it. Then there's actually the emotionally damaging side to it. So we think part has really, really been so many of us. Some are still being, some are still having to go through the whole ripple effect of that style of parenting. While some actually are just like, what, they're ignoring all that has happened and they're moved, kind of moved. So let's just leave it as that. So everybody in the comment section, if you have, you want to drop, your own thoughts, kindly drop it in the comment section and definitely interact. Now, how does bad parenting affect a person's mental, emotional state?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
How does bad parenting affect a person's mental and emotional state? Like jump. Have question.
All right, okay. I'm gonna go first. Okay, so I like one key word from this is bad parenting. Like you said it all. Is bad parenting. So what is bad parenting? Basically, I think we need to talk about that. I'm going to ask my other content um, partners or creating partners what bad parenting is. What really is bad parenting? I don't think is cast in black and white. I don't think is a single definition. I don't think it's a single rule for everybody. What is bad parenting? I think personally, bad parenting is a conflict between what we want from the kids, what the kids really are like, what the kids want to be like,
Hmm.
and all of that. So that conflict will represent what really bad parenting is. So whilst I think I said earlier, some kids deserve a beating when they do certain things. Some are not like that. You just need to talk to them and then they will align. All right. Some kids just want to watch you and do that stuff that you're doing. If you're doing the wrong thing, they do the wrong thing. So that's bad parenting in that. So bad parenting for me is the conflict that comes up between the acting part of the society, the child himself, the family, the church or the mosque or whichever one follows, that's what I think bad parenting is. So I think we should talk about bad parenting first, and before we talk about how it actually affects the child. Some parents don't know they're bad. Some are good parents, but the child is taking it the other way. I don't think. So a lot of times you see a child and like this child is bad. I'm sure the parents are not laying good examples, but I promise you, the parents are doing the best they possibly can do. That child is just bad. So packing everything on the parent, I think is unfair. I think is unrealistic. I think that does not work. I rest.
Okay.
But we've
Okay, so well,
okay.
okay, so I think okay, so I think bad parenting is when a parent just imposes themselves on the child.
Mm.
For example, I mean, this is me. I don't like to be beaten. No, sorry, this is me. I don't like it when you talk to me anyhow. So like that could hurt me for days. And then there's my mom knowing that, oh, this is what she does not like. And then that's what she's gonna do. No, she doesn't do that. I'm just like citing an
Giving us
example. This is what she doesn't like, and I'm gonna do it until she bends to my will. Like, mommy be your mama, you go hear me by force. And I think that's really bad because then it brings down the child's self-esteem. It just like boxes the child. The child won't be able to talk. You won't be able to like express yourself because you know that if you do something, you will even be afraid to make mistakes, right? You know that if you do something bad, my ma is going to just do this thing that I don't like, and it's going to hurt me for days, and that just scars the child like for a long time. So I think that is like one of the characteristics of a bad parent. So that's like bad parenting. One of the
bad way.
Forget, please just allow me. I need to ask Olamide a question.
okay.
If well, I didn't get if your parents are not, but the
No.
questions or things that you can't explain to a child, right? So you might have to take the route of because I said so. How do you go around that sort of thing? Like a child is asking you, why shouldn't I say certain things, like a curse word, right? That if I'm permitted to use it, a child goes like maybe for whatever reason he's heard or she's heard somewhere that he can tell someone fuck off, right? And then she says, why do you say I shouldn't say that? How do you explain that? Do you say because I said so, or because how do you start to explain that?
Oh no, you don't say because I said so. Because if you say because
Okay,
I
so
said so, then you've not really explained to the child why. You are just
so
imposing it
how do you explain that
because I
one?
said
Like
so. So what?
you can't say fuck off to people. Why can't you say that?
Well, because it could hurt the other person's feelings. Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
hmm It could hurt the other person's feelings, and you should not express yourself in such a manner because that's rude. You know. And they should get it. That's rude. Don't talk to people like that. There are better ways to express yourself. I mean, I think that's better.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
agree. Okay, so when it comes to bad parenting, I think, like he was explaining, we might all have kind of different but similar definitions of what a bad parent is, because my parent might not be bad to me, but there's certain things that maybe a parent is doing that's similar to what my parent is doing, that another person would feel, oh, but this is not right for me. But what I think personally is that when it comes to the obvious things, a negligent parent, an abusive parent, a parent who doesn't care about their child's emotional needs, things like that. Because one thing I've learned just growing up basically is that there's certain points in my life that I reached, maybe teenage years and all that, where I felt like if my parents actually just sat me down and they're like, listen, okay, this is how it's going to go. You don't need to be this person. Change your ways. I think that would have opened up a conversation between me and my parents, because at that point you become, more of a person that's separate from your upbringing, because you learn different things, you are exposed to other factors outside. And when you come home, like you're saying, if you have to explain to a child, don't say a curse word. It's not like at home your parents are saying, cuss words, they're cussing or swearing. Maybe you heard it somewhere. But as a parent now, I have to be able to be like, okay, hey, listen, we don't do that here because it's not appropriate, So for me, just the obvious things: emotional abuse, physical abuse, things like that. Being negligent is just a no-go. Like, that's bad parenting 101. Other things is just not listening to children's emotional needs, because children are smart. To be honest, children are smart. Like you said, they can be very manipulative, conniving. I have an 11-month-old, and if she wants something, she throws a tantrum, knowing that she can't have it. That's a form of manipulation. But I, as a parent, have to be like, hey, calm down. This is not for you. This is for you. But, it tests your patience. I understand. Like, sometimes you just want to snap and be like, ah. But then you remember, okay, she can't comprehend her emotions, and I need to teach her how to regulate. Like, okay, this is not right. Maybe I should try this way.
That's it. Okay, so I would say that like we said, or we are all established, that bad parenting is better. So every child has different types of needs, and once those needs are not met by the parent, that's bad parenting. So every child has psychological needs, they have spiritual needs, they have physical needs, they have health needs, they have different, like, you have different aspects of your life. So also that child does. So if you're not there to actually groom the child, that's bad style of parenting. If you leave the child to figure things out for themselves, or leave the child to probably like a caregiver to raise. Some parents don't even raise their children, they leave it to teachers in school. So all of that is actually bad style of parenting. So you, as a parent, you need to pass values to your children, you need to discipline them, you need to train them a certain way. And the truth is that even when it has to do with their psychological needs, love, you need to show them love, you need to care for them, you need to listen to them. When all of that is not there, it's bad parenting. So you might be good in probably maybe like different other aspects, and one aspect is lacking. That lacking aspect, bad parenting. And sometimes you might feel that, like Bob said, that if you tell there are actually some parents that actually use vulgar words. They don't see it as wrong. So any child coming from that home would see it as normal. But we, on the other side of the divide, we see it as bad parenting. Why would you train your child to be using vulgar words or to be speaking to people in certain ways? So I think it all stems from the personality of the parent that actually gets him married, because you can't give what you do not have. Yeah. So that is why I actually asked, that question. Now it will now go into the main question: African style of parenting. How does it affect us emotionally and also emotionally? Who wants to go? Let me issue a disclaimer. I'm not saying that the African parent is doing bad parenting. No, please don't. I'm not saying that. No. So just issue that disclaimer. Okay. So make it easy for us. I'm sure everybody's trying to talk. So let me make it easy for us now. Personal experience.
Let me jump in very quickly. I might take you guys just give me like a couple of minutes. Yeah, let me just run through something I had put down. Okay, so African parenting is authoritative, typical ones. I'm not talking of the few exceptions. So the typical African parenting is authoritative, is for lack of a better word, violent, assertive, and all of them. Yeah, and like I heard earlier, I think it was Philippine that said it. It's because of the experiences of our parents. They had to deal with slavery, they had to deal with colonialism, I am Yoruba. I'm from the southwest part of Nigeria, where I think most part of Africa, where you know that the more the number of kids you have, the more the amount of help you get on the farm, right? And then the more the number of kids you have, the more the number of people that will take care of you when you're old. These are some of the things they had in their head, thinking after all I've done for you, this is what the emotional, the verbal abuse, the things you get when they go like, after all I'm doing for you, is this one that you're going to do? No, I'm not going to take this and blah blah blah. They even want you to study medicine so that you can be a doctor, and they go like, where's Baba today? My son, doctor. It's somewhere, these are all part of it. And then they've driven and pushed the kids to some extent where you're thinking, how did I even get here? Why did I study this course? Why am I living in America? I don't even like America. But because your parents want you to be there, these are all part of the things we have to deal with. So very quickly, I'm going to talk about like 4 different types of parenting. Just permit me, I'll be done very quickly. The first one I'm going to talk about is the permissive parent. Okay, so the permissive parents, they have high responsiveness, low demand. They let you do it. They're very liberal. Yeah. So we have it's a Western thing for parents to really be liberal. Things like we are not going to take in Africa. Like my child asking me that, don't be silly. Don't be silly. But that's not a smart thing to do. Yeah. The liberal parents, they communicate openly. They talk easy, like it's not a problem. They negotiate things with the kids and all of that. Rules and expectations are not set in stone. Like if I tell you should sleep by 10 o'clock, if you tell me or give me reasons why you don't want to sleep by 10, that's fine, right? These are permissive parents. I'm going to go to authoritative parents. I'm sure we all know what that is. There's high demand, there's clear rules. These rules and these are things I expect from you. Wake up at 5 o'clock, you clean the house, you do this, you do that, you do this. Communication is usually, you remember Sound of Music, Captain Von Trapp. It blows the whistle, you do this. This is what you do. This is how it goes, right? Then they allow natural sequence to occur. I mean, you fail your quiz because you didn't study. They give it to you like that. The reason this happened, like, you came last in class. I'm not going to come and put my arm around you. I'm going to tell you after paying your school fees, this is what you can come up with. So that's authoritarian. Then there's a neglected parent. I'm sure we know what that is. Universal donors for the sake of the guys, for the girls, ladies. They just do whatever they want to do. Have babies by different men, abandon the parent. They can't be bothered. Nothing gets done. No communication. Nothing. No, nothing. They just leave it to chance, isn't it? Yeah, they leave that to chance. And the last one is the I talked about authoritative parents, and the authoritarian parent is still like authoritative parent as well. They're like everything has to be done the way they want it done, right? Okay, so these are different kind of parenting styles that we have everywhere. The African one tends to go with the authoritarian, and they are not often liberal. And we should understand as well that our culture is not such that is liberal. The religion came, and the interpretation of religion is not favorable either. I tell you what to do, I tell you what religion to do, I tell you what church to go to, or what course to study, and then that ain't help. So when you see a parent that is authoritative, it's not because the parent is bad, or because the parent wants to have the worst possible thing for its child. The parent is just a factor or a product of the things he's had to survive and the things he had to deal with. So sometimes when we want to talk about this, we shouldn't be really quick to judge. So myself, yourself, and Olamide, probably, the exposure is there, the education is there, different countries there, socialization and all of that. So we know better. So by the time we want to start pointing hands to our parents, we should remember that they had to deal with limited stuff and the struggles they had to deal with. And they did it to the best of their ability. So an example before I close is children of authoritative parenting. They're very independent, they're very assertive, they're go-getters. These are their products. Yeah, they have bad parts. They tend to be too assertive. They tend to be aggressive sometimes. But I promise you, Those ones are doing better than the ones that every small thing, oh, I really don't feel like going to work today. Someone screamed at me and I can't stand up to that person. I don't think we
Yeah.
want to raise kids like this. All right? I close. I rest. Thank you. Stop
Okay,
laughing, man.
nice, nice one there, Babs. Okay, so who's going in next?
Okay, I'll go in for next.
Good.
Okay, that was well said. Yeah, I do agree that African style of parenting is more authoritative. And that they were conditioned. They were conditioned by their living conditions. They were conditioned by their socioeconomic status. They were conditioned by so many factors. They were conditioned by religion, culture. They were just conditioned. Personally, out of my book, I would say I was raised by a single mother, and I have two other sisters. Okay, so there was three of us and my mom, and I would use some of the way she used to parent to her because now we both mother and father. So she had to parent in a way that is authoritative. She had to be very stern with us. She had to, the instances where it's like you can't get this and that's it because of her standing. And that's just I think some of the I would say like you see it often in African parenting as well, because when it came to, for instance, my grandfather, he used to go to the city to work and he left his wife at home with the kids. That's kind of a form of single parenting because he was not there 80% of the time. So our fathers even had to go work and, come home with income, meaning that our mothers were the ones at home. So our mothers also had to be like very stern and all of that with their kids. And it was just tough. That's what I'm saying. It's like a condition. It's kind of like a generational curse, if you want to put it that way. So it's just something that has been learned. It's a learned behavior. Any behavior, even now, however I choose to parent my child, she's going to learn those types of things. It's a process. And if she gets to a point where she's like, oh, I don't want to parent like my mom because I want to break the generational curse, then that's how it's going to, from that point, it's going to break. So African style of parenting is not all bad. I mean, we have doctors, we have African doctors, we have African lawyers because of how our parents chose to parent. Even though they didn't have the best education, they made sure that my children will get an education. Just like you're saying, you become a more dependent human being. You are independent. You don't have parents because of the way they raised you and the way they conditioned you. Things like chores, we probably looked at it as punishment, but in a way, it was shaping you to be a responsible adult. You know that I have to do certain things at a certain time so that I can be productive for the day. That's not bad, you know. Other than the emotional damage type of things, sometimes, yes, we are having lingering feelings and emotional damage from some of the things our parents did. But because we are African as well, we've learned to just be like, it's life. I can move on from this. Some people, unfortunately, have fallen into depressive states because we are not the same. But yeah, it can be toxic. I mean, if I don't want to be a doctor, like I don't want to go study abroad, I don't want to do or do a certain thing my parent wants me to do, it is going to affect me. If I don't want to become a lawyer, what if I want to become a singer, Beyonce, and now I'm stuck in this job that I hate because my mother said, go study this. And that can be like detrimental to someone for the rest of their life. I don't think parents look at it that way because they just think I am making your life better, or in a sense that you will take care of me, which is black tax. Also, that's another thing for another day. But I don't think they saw it that way. They just saw it as I'm trying to, improve your life so that you don't have to live how I lived. But it's not something that our parents understood, and that just comes from the background and how they were raised and just what they went through in life. Certain jobs are just seen as superior and elite. and you can't do anything else. But that's just how parents parent. I don't think if my came to me and said they wanted to be Rihanna, that I would be happy. I wouldn't be happy. I'm sorry, because I've also been conditioned to think that there's just some jobs that are superior. But yes, if you become Rihanna, you can make money. Sure, you can become a billionaire, but it's going to take time, and it's not overnight, and it's not everybody that gets that lucky. I don't know. I just think that our parents had the right head and the right mind for us, but they didn't see or foresee that obviously the world would be different in a couple of years. And there's just certain ways that they could have done better. And that's okay. We can forgive our parents and move on. But yeah, it does damage you to some extent.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Okay, allow me to go over to you.
Okay, so listening to Babs and Philippine talk, I'm just realizing that I really didn't have a bad parenting experience.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Because right now I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm going to be exactly like my mom raising my children, because to be honest, because I was raised by just my mom, a single parent. My dad was out of our lives and stuff. So growing up, my mom had some tactics to which I would love to change, but overall it really helped me, because I mean, I can't even imagine being where I am today without my mom's tactics. I mean, I'm going to be spoiled rotten. I'm going to be on the streets doing whatever, because I can't relate to bad parenting on this level that you were talking. Nah, my mom did a fantastic job, and I'm going to be exactly like that woman, just a little bit of tweak. So I don't have this trauma. I can't think of any apart from the fact that, apart from the trauma, of course, coming from my mom and dad being separated, of course, that one where I get mocked in school, me and my friends show off their dads and blah blah, mine is nowhere to be found. But my mom always fills in the gap, so I really didn't feel it that much. So I can't relate. I cannot relate to this bad parenting thing.
oh wow. I would like to say God bless your mom and Philippine mom.
God bless your mom. This is good testimony. This is good testimony.
I've been cracking and racking my brain, like, what am I going to say about this bad parenting thing? God help me. But I can't find anything. Because I can't relate.
Well said. Well said. Well said.
A very, very good and amazing job. So let's go to we have a lot of people sending in comments. So let's take comments. So we have Madam Comfort Oluwafumilayo. That's your mom.
I don't want to be here again, man. Someone's mother's watching.
Yeah, that's my mother.
So we have Adeola saying, hey, hi, thank you for tuning in. So we have Olakweju waving, thank you. So we have the camera boss sending in loves. Hi, camera boss, thank you for tuning in. So we have your mom clapping, and we have Olakweju saying, unfortunately, there is no manual for parenting. Even the most prepared parents might end up with the type of child they did not prepare for. God help us all. Amen. I like to say, God have mercy upon us.
No.
So we have another question saying, to them, that's how they show love, by providing and setting you straight. Shake my head. So that is African parenting. So she's saying exactly, it's the culture. That's why it's almost the same with Asian parents, Caribbean parents, etc. Authoritative parenting can also produce timid people who are afraid to speak up, fear of being shut down. It can end in either of the two extremes. That's very true. And we have Olakweju laughing. And that's when Olamide says that she can't relate. She had it too. So we have Tea Time with Rani. Hi, thank you for tuning in. Hi, Gbogbo Swagger. Hi, thank you so much for tuning in. So if you have if you have questions or you have you want to drop it, probably your comments, please drop it in the comment section. And if today is actually your first time, being on our live show or on this channel, welcome. Kindly subscribe. You will love it here. Trust me, we always have amazing content that you would definitely enjoy. So now we're going deep into this conversation and we're going personal. So I would want you all to share a personal experience about your African parent saga and how it affected you or caused emotional damage. Yes, talk. You all lean back, lean back. All right, lean forward and start talking. Going first.
Okay, Olamide said she can't relate, so I don't know.
I really said, apart from some things I'll change.
Something that she would want to change. So
Just
definitely this is the African parent saga. So
okay, so I'm going to go first. I have two experiences, and there's one from my dad, of course, before he left the house. So I had a near rape experience. So, and the same day my dad got home and beat the shit out of me, like, yo, the man beats me. I'm like, I was 6. I had no idea what happened. In fact, I didn't even know that was a near rape experience until like I had grown. I didn't know how he found out, whatnot. But for that singular reason, that nigga beat the shit out of me. So that one, I would I would like I don't know. I don't even talk about it. And there's this other one that my mom did. Mommy. So so I used to be a very troublesome child, a troublesome teenager. I would literally do the worst things. I mean, I would disturb her. I would steal her money from her business and stuff. Sometimes when I want to steal my mom's money, I'd lock her out of the house to steal her money. So there was this one time she was like, you know what, I've had enough. She had warned me, and before my mom.
sorry to interject.
Oh my
About parenting.
So before my mom beat me,
I feel like an altar boy right now.
she would literally warn me for 6 months straight before she would touch me once. And she doesn't beat me during the day. Nah, she'll beat me. She'll wake me up around 12 a.m. when there's nobody to rescue me. So this particular time, I think
It's the king of boys, a woman king.
Yeah, and then she woke me up in the midnight and beat me. After beating me, she tear me blade. I have the mark. Yeah, I have the mark here. And then she put pepper.
Yo.
And then she put pepper. And she was like, "Laila here. Oh, this Shebemo." And Laila me. I didn't
Oh gosh.
So like that one was traumatic. Like blades. I know I'm terrible, but blades here for no. That's just
Okay, so how did it cause emotional damage to you?
Well, I felt like am I this bad that my mom would condemn me to this kind of thing? I mean, every time I have the mark right here, I can show you. Every time I see the mark, I'd be like, because of 20 naira. Like, it's 20 naira, but you've been stealing a lot.
Stealing spirit from you. To remove.
Yeah, the thing came out from the spot. It came out from that spot. That spirit came out from the spot. So like that. Well, in the long run, it didn't really damage me. It made me think like it's not good to do this thing. And being a troublesome teen, I know that she ran out of patience because my mom, if you know her, she's very patient. So she just ran out of patience, and that was the best way she could do it. that that was what I got from it. So it's not really like a damage. At that point when it happened, I felt like I didn't speak to her for days. I mean, we were fighting in the house, keeping malice and stuff, but I felt like she was my enemy at that point. But after, in the long run, after all these years, I mean, I was the one at fault. It was not even my mommy at all. So that was it. That was it.
Great. Thanks for
Sorry,
sharing.
please, give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so who's going next?
Okay, I'll go next. So, okay, I don't know how to put this because I think it's quite controversial to say the least. I'm a middle child. So I think I always just felt like the odd one out. People will call it middle child syndrome. It's a thing, I guess. But I always felt like the odd one out. And I think it attributed to maybe the way my mother um used to treat my sisters. I felt like she treated them differently than she did for me. They might not agree, but I, from my point of view, I always just felt like they had their own maybe special treatment or whatever, and I was always the odd one out. So yes, I was like rebellious also as a teenager. I was literally kind of like the black sheep of the family, and I think there were times when my mom was at her wit's end, like, how do I even in this child? Because she's not like the others. The thing that if your parent says something like that, like you're not like the others, or as a child, you take those things to heart. Like, you feel like, how are they special? How are they different from me? So I just feel like my mom's style of parenting, I don't think it was intentional for her, because at the end of the day, we were very different individuals. My sisters and I are different. Of course, my older sister, the sweetheart, she listens more. I mean, she's an older sister. She's the firstborn. They're supposed to be like that. You're supposed to be the sweetheart. You're supposed to listen to your parents, take care of your sisters. The last one is always the spoiled. That's okay. They always just spoiled. So I always felt like some of the basic like responsibilities would fall on me because my sister's older. She shouldn't be doing something. My younger sister is spoiled, so she doesn't want to wash the dishes. So who must do them? Someone must do them. And I'll be like, okay, I'll do them. And there's just certain things maybe that in their lifespan that they could get that I never got. And I think that maybe when it was my turn, like the timing just was not right. But as a child, I saw that as my needs or my emotional needs not being met. So for me, I wouldn't say, getting spanked and all of that was like emotionally damaging for me, because I think those are just lessons, like, just disciplining me not to do a certain thing. I don't think there was a time my mom hit me unnecessarily. I think there was an action that happened for her to warrant that kind of like reaction, to be like, okay, I am definitely going to beat you right now because you did this. But for me, I just think it was more of the emotional stuff that was not met. Like I said, I just always felt like the odd one out, just the middle child, just you don't really deserve this, or you'll be fine if you don't get this, but your sisters, need it. If my sister wants this, then she'll get it. But if I want something, maybe I won't get it. And I always just felt like that. I know my sisters don't agree because they've always just been like, no, mommy coddles you. But sitting in my corner, I just felt like, mm-mm, I'm definitely being treated different. I feel like the less loved child, the one that has to be independent and not depend on, my parents for certain things. I just felt like that. I felt like she had favorites. Maybe she didn't, but I felt like she definitely had favorites, and that's something that has changed me, because I know when I want something, for instance, like if I want to ask a simple thing like my husband, if I want to ask my husband for something, um, I'll think about it first, because it was the same with my mom. Like, I had to really construct like a
Mm.
proper reason to be like, okay, I really want this or need this, and this is why, And it has also made me a very reserved person. I don't speak much. I don't voice my feelings much because of that, because I always felt like I was not listened to and my feelings were not validated. So if something happens, like most times, keep it to myself, internalize it. And has done a lot of emotional damage for me not saying things, because I just keep bottling things up because I know that nobody listens to me anyway, so why bother? I think that's just one thing that I feel like I've been trying to work on even now, just being a grown up, that okay, let me accept it for what it is and just try to get rid of that emotion, because at the end of the day, she's still my mom. I can't crucify her for her faults. She did the best she could. But yeah, that's just the basic part of it.
Thank you for sharing. That's psychological and that's deep. Thanks for sharing. Okay, Babs, over to you.
Yeah. Well said, guys. Okay, so I'm not going to say that I didn't come out of my parents went bad. I promise you. My father of blessed memory, a good guy, quiet. He was like like he's not an active volcano, but when he gets into it, he erupts. Like my mom is a smoldering one. I mean, she's on top of it every time. But like I said earlier, growing up, I'm the last, right? And I'm the most different. Uh, my elder sister, who's the first, ever got spanked once by my parents. I mean, she only got spanked once in her entire life, and some of us aren't that lucky. I mean, I won't even call it luck, to be honest. I'll call it like, let me not lie, I deserve most of the things I got. I'm going to share a couple of them with you, and then you know as well that it was a difficult childhood. And I also think as well that some of the behavior was possibly me acting out because I thought I'd treat her differently. I thought because I was different from the other ones, I was the outgoing, vivacious, I was the life of the whatever you call it, whether it was party or causing mayhem in the house. I was right in the middle of it. And these guys weren't ready to accept it. So one thing I learned from my own childhood was like you said earlier, Funke, that there is no manual for parenting. Someone said it and then you echoed it. And they had a manual that they wanted every child to conform to, which I think was wrong. Fortunately, it didn't kill my spirit, it didn't break my spirit. I became more resilient, I became more Babs, right? I became this. So let me give you an instance. There was one day myself and my cousin. My mom is a nurse, old nurse. You know those ones, they don't used to take prisoners. Mom would beat you if you faint. She will tell you, "Oh, don't worry, I will resuscitate you." She will beat the crap out of you. Like, I mean, she's not even joking. Like, all weapons are free to be deployed. Philippine might not know that, but there's something we call Omorugu. This thing they used to turn Eba
Why?
or Amala. No, it's basically a staff. You know that Gandalf like staff. You know Gandalf, Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, that shit. My mom will beat you with that. She'll beat you with a broom. She's stoned with a knife before. But again, thinking back, so this particular day, myself and my cousin, we saw this hen with like maybe like how many like chicks? Maybe like six of them. So we went to get my mom's operating stuff. She owns a clinic as well. We cut open about like six, no, about like three or four chicks. Like we said, we wanted to operate on them and inject them. Now thinking about that now, if anybody was listening to that, I'll be thinking this child is going to be a serial killer or something in the future. Now tell me I didn't deserve the kind of beating I got that day. Like we killed like maybe three or four. Myself and my cousin Tanwa. I don't know. You know Tanwa now. Okay, you know Tanwa. Like four of them, and then that was on one case. And another case, the old currency. One time, the 5 naira, the 10 naira. You know, my father used to collect. He's a collector of things like that. So that was really deep when he was alive. Deep guy collected those currency. And I remember the green one looked like 20 naira, but I think it was 2 naira or 5 naira. It's the older guys that really remember. I carried that money. I went to go and spend it at 20 naira at that age. And then the guy found that when he was counting the money that he got duped by the son of Susu man that lives down the street. And that was an elder in church. Like, how is your son doing this kind of thing? I mean, come on. There were times we fought in school and then we locked people up in. Okay, there was one particular guy, we locked him up in the school store and we went home. And I forgot that I locked someone up in the store. Like, they were looking for him at home before they found him. So now, not going to bore you with instances that happened then. I deserved some of the beatings I got. But in my defense, I'm thinking, how did I get there? I got there because, like Philippine said, no one wanted to listen. They made up their mind already. This one is not going to amount to anything in life. I'm sure there was a time, I can't remember which one of them said it, that they watched Crime Fighters. It was on AIT at the point, hoping that my face would be there at some point. I remember when I got my first car, the question was, I'm sure they'll come for you one of these days. My wife, it was the case of, we know that you're going to fail it, but let's pay for it anyways. So I spent a lot of my formative years trying to make sure that you guys, you're not going to have what you're thinking is going to happen. So I was breezing through school, not because maybe I wasn't brilliant, I don't know. I was fueled by, you're not going to have it. I'm not going to be a dropout. I'm not going to be a last in class. I'm not going to be this. I'm not going to be that. I'm going to turn out, in fact, better than you all thought I'm going to turn out. I'm not going to be this child that you thought I'm going to be. Now, I'm asking myself, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Being fueled by, I was misunderstood, yeah, but I also think I deserve some of those things. But now, fast forward, the damage now is how to get me to talk about things that really affect me, how to show pains or vulnerability, how to open up to people that, look, guys, there's a problem. I always say, just deal with it yourself, which is a problem because now, if I don't watch it, I'm going to pass it on to the child or my kids. Like, I don't expect you to be this. Oh, someone bullied you, then fight back. Because that's what I feel. Whilst I'm not regretting that, I'm also thinking each child has different peculiarity, and each child's personality is different. Is it every child that's going to be combative, aggressive, or being able to stand his ground? Like someone commented, is it every child that will be able to withstand that pressure without being broken, become timid, not able to speak out, and all of that? So, in my defense, I think as a product of how my siblings were and how misunderstood I was. Because they expected me to be like them, I wasn't. I wanted to be different, they refused. And I tried to be everything they wanted me to, but I wasn't fueled by wanting to be good. I just wanted to show them that I could be good. So that is a damage on its own. But at the same time, it paid off somehow. And I was lucky enough to be able to get myself back and get myself, hopefully I'm back on track. But sometimes I promise you, I don't understand it.
Hmm.
It's a bit emotional now, so I'll just stop.
It's emotional. It's emotional. Wow. Thank you for opening up and thank you for sharing. Wow. That's deep. So I think in as much as we're talking about these things, it's actually going to help us heal. because that's the truth. Because some people might not, talk about it till probably they leave, or it would once they don't deal with it, they start passing it on to their children unknowingly, and because that is what you know and you've not dealt with it. So, Babs, thank you for opening up. Thank you for sharing. Olamide, thank you for opening up. Thank you for sharing. And Philippe, thank you for opening up, and thank you for sharing. So let's go to the comments. Yeah, this is we have a lot of comments here. So we have DK Jonas for tuning in. So she said, I think parenting is tough. I am not a parent, but what I have observed from friends angry, anger and discipline do not work together. Recipe for emotional damage. That's very good. Thank you for dropping this comment, and also this is insightful. What you said is very true. Like a lot of the parents, once they are angry, that's when they descend on you. But as much as possible, I like what she said, that anger and discipline do not work. Thank you so much for that. So we have Olakoji saying your mom is the real G. Midnight reset. Yeah, a lot of us got midnight beating. Okay, so we have the camera boss saying at the door, our parents. Okay, that's part of the African parent. So we have Ayawade saying the midnight crew. I can relate. The talk was usually more painful than beating. Yeah, some of them will not beat, but they will talk. By the time they finish with you, you just feel like dying. By the time you finish with you feel like your life is worthless. You feel like, why am I here? What am I doing here? I don't want to be here.
Let me just go.
And sometimes you feel that you prefer the beating to the talking. That's very true. Thank you for sharing. So we have Adelua saying, okay, to Babs. Babs, you have a question? What is your recipe for a from the different types of parents you mentioned, and can you give practical examples too? Thanks. Okay, question for you.
No, you have to repeat the question. I didn't get that.
To Babs, what is your recipe for a perfect parenting from the different types of parenting you mentioned, and can you give practical examples too? Thanks.
Okay. I'm going to attempt to answer that. So first thing first, thank you for tossing that question out. I'm going to tell you something that I'm sure everybody here will agree with me, that there is no perfect parenting. Because there's no journal for it, the parents just have to do what they think is best for you, which might not really be good, right? So a parent is not going to do more than his ability to parent. Right? For a parent that thinks I can drink and smoke in front of my child, it thinks it's not a problem. I can drink and smoke in front of you and then tell you not to drink and smoke. That's the best a parent can offer. So there is no perfect parenting. All right. The parent can always only do what they think is best at the point. Now, one thing we have to always be conscious of is when we're raising our kids, you need to study your child. Study the child before you then respond to the child and everything the child has done. Olamide said something earlier. Mom was offered. Mom was responding to what she did. Okay? Sometimes we parents need to ask ourselves, why is this child behaving like this? Okay, so I am there. So I've had a couple of cuttles in front of my son, okay, and he's talked about it, and I struggle to explain to him why daddy has to take that part. The other day I went on I jogged. I was walking with my son, Jaden. He's 5 now, and then some guy tries to run us over with his car, and I said something to him, and then he parked his car. He wanted to have a fight, right? Now, we were having a go at each other. This was in my estate, and he didn't understand it. He jumped in front of me, and the guy was still having a go. But I was struggling not to engage the guy, all right, because he's there.
Babs. Okay. So I think network has actually struck. So when we
Sorry
having,
about that.
sorry,
I'm back.
yeah.
Okay, so I told the guy that if you're really very sure about this, let me go and drop my son at home, and then we can settle this. But he understood it. And when I took him over, was like, Daddy, are you going back to fight? I'm like, no, we're going to have a word. At the question, I was ashamed of myself. So I'm not going to engage the guy in front of him, but he understood that I was going back to go and engage the guy. So we need to study our kids and what we do in front of them and how we react to them. So, like I said earlier, there's no perfect parenting. What you need to look for is custom made, is bespoke, is tailor made.
Ah, okay. I think the network is really bad. So I would want to add to what Babs is saying that if I think balance is key, and what I would advise is having like a balance with all the different types of parenting, because the truth is each of them has pros and cons. So if you have like the balanced style of parenting, I think it's going to work. But there is no perfect parenting.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely. There's no perfect parenting. It's a hybrid of this. It's cut and chop. You cut a bit, you chop a bit, you go on. Sometimes do not be too arrogant to own it up. I've messed up. If you've messed up, just own it up. Like, you know what? That beating I gave you yesterday, or the way I yelled at you yesterday, wasn't the right thing. At times, you know you goofed. Just own it up, and then cut and chop. Study the child very well. There are times that I know that after yelling a lot of instructions at this child, I know that going forward, I do not have to yell it again. All I have to do is just like, remember what I told you the day before yesterday. And then it goes like, yeah, I'm like, okay, don't do that again. And then that's the information. So again, there's no perfect parenting. It's on the go, learning on the job. Don't be too arrogant to own it up when you're wrong. Don't be too rigid to know that there are things I have to change in this. This is not working. There are times you know that you know when you do something to a child, it's not just about beating. A child has done something and you take away the screen time, maybe your the iPad or TV time. You know that they actually hurt more than you beat them. And then you be like, okay, this works. It's a combination of all of them. It doesn't have to be bam, bam, bam. I got beaten to the point where you want to beat me, I'll ask you where. Is it back or hand? Which side? You know? And then I remember secondary school then when they're beating you or spanking you with pancare. I don't know if Philippines, do you know what pancare is? It's cane. It's cane. What's that stuff called again?
there are
Uh,
different types of
I'm
weapons.
trying to remember the word. I'll remember the word and then probably tell you. So they'll tell you lie down on the table and then everybody say 1, 2, 3 is the number you can take. That shows how hard you were. And what does it show that we're hard boys and stuff? So we took all of that. So the beating didn't work. I'm not going to. For some of us, the beating will never work because the pain is just part of the process, right? So if you have a child that you know that you're beating the child is not looking at you like, is that all? You know that you failed. You need to try something else, right? You need to try screen time. You need to try other forms. Oh, I'm going to ground you. You're not going anywhere. Oh, I'm not going to give you access to the car. Oh, there's no internet for you. There's so many things. Study your child. Don't be too arrogant. Don't be set in your ways. Don't think you don't know it all. Knowledge is vast. Knowledge is evolving, is ever developing. So if you have a child that you're thinking this is the best way to deal with that child, you might probably be wrong. So study that child and see what works. Is it words like, oh, you don't even use your head, and you know the way Yoruba parents will talk to their kids. That's on one side. On the other side, it could just be kids of these days. I know screen time it works like a magic. Like, you know what? That iPad gone, TV gone. They will conform like immediately, sharp. No, oh, your PlayStation is gone. That's it. That's it. You're not even going to watch TV, or you're not going anywhere, or you're not going to ride your scooter or something. So we need to do is cut and chop rather than just beating kids like they're armed robbers or you know, you know. Again, like someone said on the comment, not everybody will survive that without being really, really worse off. Some become timid, some become aggressive, some become women beaters, some domestic violence, some serial killers. It's funny, but not everybody is going to get out of this the way they go into it. All right. So we need to make sure that we study this child, we study ourselves before we try to administer this punishment. Sometimes these punishments don't work with a particular child or the different kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Babs. Philippine, do you want to add to that? Olamide, do you want to add to what he said?
Okay. Yeah, I think when it comes to parenting, uh, parenting changes over time. I think it changes as your child grows. The style of parenting you use for a 5-year-old is not going to be the style of parenting you use when your child is teenage years. You have to adapt, like you say, proper change. Your kids are different, number one, so you're not going to discipline them the same way also, but you have to adapt to your child, basically. So in the beginning, if you are using gentle style of parenting or whatever, then at some point you literally have to, discipline them. And for a child that's never been disciplined before, it might be a shock at first, but there's just certain ways that you have to learn how to discipline your child. I don't think there is the best style, the best form of parenting, you know. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any parents at all. There isn't like the best, but we know the obvious negatives. Like we know the obvious don't do this, don't do that. We know the obvious don't abuse your child. You can be emotionally and physically abusive towards your child, and you think that's okay, and you think that it's going to be good for them. So I don't think there is like the best form of parenting, but you have to adapt to your child. That's what I think. You have to adapt. I agree with Babs. You have to try all sorts of different styles of parenting. See where your child listens to the most. There's some children that for their whole entire lives, you don't have to hit them. As soon as you figure out how to discipline them, they understand that, okay, yeah, I'm wrong. But there's some of them where you're like, okay, I've tried talking to you and nothing's happening, so I'm getting the belt. So yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Let me get you on.
Yeah, I think I'm going to digress just a little bit. So I want us to know that before you are a parent, you are human first. Yeah. And humans, naturally, we have things to deal with. And before you think of becoming a parent, not come and be putting your children through trauma and stuff, you should work on yourself first. Like, work on yourself, work on your past hurts, work on your own baggages, on the baggages that your parent has dumped on you. Because these things are sweet to say. Like, we can say we have all the blanks for parenting, but if this person is not healed, if this person is not emotionally strong and gives birth to somebody else, I mean, she's definitely or is definitely going to pass down the trauma, and it just keeps going like that. So before you become a parent, I mean, this process starts before you become a parent. Like, shaping your mind. Think about it. Help yourself. If you have to go to therapy, that's if your own case is that bad. If you have to go to therapy, do therapy. Work on yourself first before you start working on your child. Before you bring somebody into this world, take care of your own mental health. And I think it's going to be a smooth ride. I mean, there are going to be bad times, there are going to be down times and stuff, but being somebody that is already healed, you won't have that much trouble training your child, because then it will be easy for you. You can use your own experience to train your child. Like, okay, when my mom did this, I felt this way. Let me try and do this. And when you do it, that you can already tell that, oh, this is not working. I'm going to change my tactics. If you work on yourself first, then I think parenting should not be such a big deal. It's a big deal, but should not be such a hard thing to do. I think just work on your mental health. Treat yourself first. like treat yourself first before you go on to having small children and damaging their lives or whatever.
Wow, thank you so much for that. That's a very good one. That's a very, very good one. Thank you for that. So we have okay, so Adelu, I hope that answers your question. I'm sure it answers the question. So we have a lot of people saying African parents are very notorious for openly comparing their children with others, saying things like, why can't you be serious like your brother? That's very true. So we have Adelua saying African parents are not a preacher of love. They don't want, they want violence always. Yeah. So that's what you say, they are in their boski. It's true. So okay, so I was saying she definitely will resuscitate you when you said your mom is a nurse and then beat you again. So we have Austin Zek. Hi. He's saying, my baby, and he's sending love. So Gotson Zek is actually the husband of Philippine, and he's here to show some love all the way from South Africa. Thank you so much. It's, all the husbands here, they are coming to show their wives love, because earlier, Davide's husband came and dropped love in the comment section. Okay, that's nice. The men are actually very, very good men. Thank you so much for tuning in and actually supporting your wives. So we have Ajelo saying, why are African parents more focused on correction, discipline, perfectionism? What will people say ism more than having a close relationship with their children? Children and pin it, and then we'll take it in our next session because we're we're not done. So Adolua, please, we will take this question ask in part 2. Please, we apologize because of time. So we have what's happening with our parents. Yeah, it's hectic. That's very true. They did number or one. Olakpeji is saying, man didn't mince words. Ask point blank, Daddy, are you going back to fight? He's the son of the father. He knows the father that he has. Babs, you're doing a nice work. Okay, so we have Adele saying, study your child is the key and administer discipline according to child's personality, not size, speak discipline. That's very true. So we have Ola saying, more babs don't give up. Let's indicate. Oh my days. So Olakunji is saying, many damaged people are parenting innocent children today. God help us. God have mercy upon us. That is it. Like what Lamide said, you have to deal with all your demons, all your baggage before bringing an innocent child. Because a lot of parents, actually, what they do is the ripple effect. What the parents did to them, the whole aggression, they will transfer it. You will not come and you will not be the one that they will send to me. You will not be the calm down. In as much as we are forgiving them, let them to calm down, because they've not stopped. As their kids are still grown, they respecting boundaries, they are still doing the most. Part 2 is coming, and we're going to have this conversation. So I don't know why I'm saying, well said, Lamidi. Yes, well said. Thank you all for tuning in today. We are going to have a part 2. And thank you, every one of you, for agreeing to come on the show to have this conversation. And, when you have to talk about things that are personal to you in a public space, it's not easy. So thank you so much for, sharing your story. Thank you so much for opening up, because this is actually an emotional topic. Thank you so much, Babs. Thank you, Philippine. Thank you, Olamide. So in conclusion, what would you all like to say before we'll call it a night? Philippine, over to you.
Okay, in conclusion, just hold on, sorry guys. I'm having load shedding at
Oh, your network, we can't really hear you.
We
All
cannot
right, Lade,
label.
we can't hear you, Philippe. Your network is bad. No.
You can hear me now.
Yes. Yes, we can hear.
Okay. So in conclusion, I mean, until we meet again, thank you so much for the platform to share basically just a little piece of my story. I do believe that we can all learn from each other and can just better. You know, I think we can be parents. We can shape our children and it's to just groom better people. But I would still like to adopt some of the styles that our parents and use it for myself. Like Olamide pointed out that she just wants to tweak a little bit and just use them, you know, and see how it's going to be different from our parents because we're not all the same individuals. But yeah, this has been eye-opening and has been refreshing. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Allow me to over to you.
Okay, so I'll just say thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me here. It's been fun. And Babs, Kai, very stubborn child. I thought I was stubborn. Okay, so I'd really like to say that I'm happy for the parents that we're going to have in our generations, because they are doing the work. To be honest, I mean, I know some of my friends that are parents. I know how they parent their children. I can proudly say they are doing the work. So until next time that we'll continue this interesting conversation, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Love you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Babs,
Uh, okay, so in closing, I would say that westernization has come to destroy a lot of things we have. We don't rate ourselves as African. We don't rate ourselves. We don't rate what we have. We don't rate the quality of what we have. I promise you guys, our ways of raising kids might seem aggressive in some cases. It's actually aggressive in certain cases, but our values resonate. Our values when it comes to respect of the parents, respecting the culture, respecting of individuals, speaking to other people. Um, you know, things, those things you can being these things. Some of the things we were passed that was passed to us. You can't being them. I'm a bit passionate about this because yeah, I was a bit emotional earlier on, but I promise you, some of these values that were put into me still work till today, work till tomorrow. How you deal with people, how you address people, how you address situations, your attitude to life. I promise you, these foundations are so good. Like I said earlier on, I dabble into political science a bit, and I promise you, Westernization is notorious for trivializing, subjugating, suppressing a lot of things that we grew up with. They've been replaced with so many things. The Oyinbo's, the religion, the white man's religion, which is Christianity and Islamic and whatever thing else, they replaced. Our culture is not all that bad. The raising of the kids is not that bad. If you think about some of these things very carefully, you know that part of our culture encourages hard work, right? Olamide, yeah?
yes.
Hard work, resilience. When we talk about Africans, they talk about black people, Philippines. They say that blacks don't break. It's how we were raised. We don't break. We don't bend. We are resilient people. We are strong. We shouldn't let this Western culture trivialize these things where when you're supposed to be strong for a child, you're there negotiating with the child. Go to bed at 7 o'clock. You're there, you have to go to school. This is not who we are. We're totally losing who we are. We're losing our identity. Some of these Western cultures they don't count for, sorry, they don't count for shit. I promise you. So I pray you guys listen. Think about the culture you had. Being
Babs, your internet has turned off your mic.
He had to say the word shit. He said sorry.
And the
we
internet
should
turned
we shouldn't be in all of these things. We should know what to be in and what not to be in. I promise you, it's not all bad. Yeah, aggressive, traumatizing, emotional damage. But I promise you, you ladies are what you are today because of the product of how you were raised.
Thank you so much, Babs. Thank you so much. Like I said earlier, balance is key. And we're not done with this topic. We're actually coming to have a part two. So we have Olakweju saying, don't go there with African parents. They would rather sleep in a lion's den than apologize. That's very true. They find it very, very difficult apologizing. So we have Olakweju saying, okay. Many damaged people are parenting innocent children today. God help us. Okay, so she's saying, thank you all. This was great. God bless you all. Thank you so very much. And we have Aya saying, thank you all. Awesome time. Our culture is very valuable. We just need to cut out the excesses. Thank you so much, Ayo. Thank you. Thank you, all the guests. Thank you, Babs. Thank you, Olamide. Thank you, Philippine, for coming to the show today to have this conversation, and also for saying yes, because we're going to come back again to have this conversation. Till I come your way next time, this is Gbogbo Swagger, and this is Swagger's Lifestyle. Do not forget to do what? Like, share, comment. And also, this particular video, kindly share with people, your network, and also people within your spheres of influence. Take care and bye. Balance is key. African parents, please, let's be coming. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Adiolu Agugwade. Thank you so much for your feedback, for your questions. Everybody, if today is your first time jumping upon this channel, kindly subscribe. Do not leave here without subscribing. Take care and good night. Bye, Lamide. Bye, Philippine. Bye, Babs. Babs. Bye.